Hey guys, Foxdrop here. Today I want to do a video talking about why being a filthy liar can be a good thing as far as winning games goes for League of Legends, and of course then getting that juicy elo, which I know we all love and crave. So for those of you who've been paying attention to my Twitter or my Twitch, you'll know that I'm actually moving house, and today is the day that I'm moving house. So forgive me if some uploads are a little bit sketchy, or I'm a little bit hit and miss here and there. I'm just getting settled in my new place, so I apologise for that. But either way, with that disclaimer out of the way, let's talk about why being a liar can be such a good thing when it comes to League. So you guys know me, I'm a jungle main, and as a jungle main I often become the target of a lot of abuse, hate and blame. That's just the way it goes, right? The jungler is the person who has the most tools to kind of help the laners, therefore obviously it must be that person's fault when things go wrong. Of course, being a jungle main means that I also understand how jungling works more than laners do, so when I go into a lane, I will understand less about how the lane works, but I'll understand more about how the lane works in proportion to what the jungler is thinking. And I know from a jungler perspective as a laner that if I lie about what summoners are up from the enemy laner, the jungler is more likely to come and gank my lane. So if I think that I can get a pretty good gank off, if I think that all I need is a little bit of jungle help and I'm laning, what I'll say is I'll tell my jungler that the enemy laner has no flash or something like that. This will increase the chances of that jungler visiting my lane, because I know as a jungler, from a jungler's perspective, I will want to use my time as wisely as possible, and the best way to do that is to focus on lanes that don't have their summoners, right? You've got a high chance of actually killing them if they don't have their flash. Now, what people don't often understand about jungling, what people don't take into account either, and I'm certainly guilty of doing this as well, is that even if someone has their flash up, they're still good ganks. They're still a good place to go. For some reason, people are more likely to focus on lanes without flash, which obviously makes sense as far as getting the kill goes, but that doesn't mean that you should ignore lanes that don't have flash. So even if your laner has flash, and your jungler comes to gank, right? And say that you've lied to your jungler about the enemy flash being down. What's the worst that's going to happen? The enemy laner is going to use their flash. You'll just be like, oh, sorry, I thought it was down. Must have come. They must have the mastery that reduces the cooldown. That must be what it is. No harm, no foul. And honestly, you've helped your jungler make a good move. So I know I have a pretty clear conscience when I lie to my jungler as a laner about whether or not the summoners are up, because I know that it can still yield good results. So that's the first example about how lying can be a good thing. Just lie about what summoners are up for the enemy, for the jungler, and watch them come and help you more. Now, I wouldn't suggest doing this if you think, like, for example, it's a really bad place to go and gank. Like, if you think, objectively speaking, your jungler should be elsewhere, then obviously don't try and lie to them to get them to your lane. Or something like, you know, you're 0-5 against a Renekton in the top lane. You're like, oh, Renekton has no flash, come and gank, because you just get 2v1 still, you know. Don't bait them into something really bad, but it's a good tool for coaxing them into your lane. Second way you can use this a similar type of lying to your advantage is if you want to try and control your team and guide them as to what fights they want to take. Specifically speaking, if there are some fights like in the mid game where the enemy team has quite a good, maybe like a good team fight comp, like they've got an Amumu ult or something like that, you can lie about that being down or that being up, because sometimes people will listen to you if you still think that you've got a good way to win that fight. Now, don't bait your team again into a bad fight. For sometimes, like, if your team is scared of fighting because they've got a good team fight wombo combo, sometimes that's actually a good reason to be afraid. Maybe you don't want to go and fight that. Maybe that's something you should back away from. But if you still think that you can actually do a good gank, despite the fact that the enemy have all their abilities up, you can lie about that as well and tell them, oh, don't worry, we can fight this. Amumu's not got his ultimate up, even if he does. And then as long as you're 100% guaranteed, you know that you can still win that fight, that's another way similar to lying to the jungler, how you can kind of guide your team to do what you want them to do by giving them false information. Be careful about this though. I really want to emphasize, don't bait your team to doing something stupid. You have to be 100% certain that whatever it is you're lying about is still a good option for your team to do. And the second type of lying to like help you as far as like winning games go is more of from a morale perspective. I think it's a good idea to be lying about the enemy team, specifically about their capabilities as players. Sometimes I will do this when I saw my team, like at the beginning of a game, my team would say something like, oh, we can't win this game, I played against this guy, he's really good, you know, this guy's going to stomp you, or something like that. You know, if people are getting really down and negative about the game, you know, before the game's even started, like while you're just running to lane and stuff, just say, oh no, I played against this guy before, he's crap. Like, I played versus this guy, he's awful, he's terrible. You won't lose to this guy, don't worry, he's really bad. That gives some confidence to your teammates, and then they can perform better. Now, on the flip side, you could argue that you don't want to give your team overconfidence, right? You don't want them to go in underestimating the enemies, because then what happens if they're, you know, if the enemies aren't actually as bad as you say they are, then they're just going to fail, right? But I find like my philosophy on that is that players are much more likely to underperform because they overestimate their enemies than underperform because they underestimate their enemies. I think it's so much better to be really confident in your abilities and to be confident in what you're doing, because I think a lot of the time the thing that stops you from being successful as a league player is really just in your own head. It's all mental, and a lot of that comes down to you thinking that the enemy players are a lot better than they actually are, and especially you're in comparison to you and to them. Now, if you have a massive ego, chances are that it doesn't relate to the enemy team. Like, if someone's got a massive ego about how they're in elo hell, it's probably not because they think their enemies are terrible, it's probably because they think their teammates are terrible. But if you can think your enemies are terrible, then you're always going to be playing with a lot of confidence, but don't do really stupid things, of course, but still. That's the kind of lie that you can tell your team, just to give them confidence, to make them play with confidence, because playing with confidence is so much better than playing just a little bit timid. I think for solo queue, it's always better to go ahead and do that. And I think as well, like, if someone gets fed on the enemy team too, you can say, no, don't worry, this guy doesn't know how to get fed. You know, if this guy's like 5-0, just be like, nah, he won't carry, don't worry, he's not going to carry, he's a bad player, don't worry, he won't carry. And then say, don't worry, I got this, we got this, like, easy peasy, this game's like, we won't lose this game, don't worry guys, I promise you we won't lose this game. That could be 100% a lie. You could be thinking, holy crap, how are we going to win this game? But still, it's all about the confidence, you know, it's all about confidence, being positive for your team as well. Because those things are so much, infinitely more useful and infinitely better to be saying to your team compared to things like, yeah, this game's over, we've lost, it's done, GG. You know, that kind of stuff doesn't help at all. So even if it's a lie, even if you don't believe yourself when you say that kind of thing, it's still a good thing to say, in my opinion. Now, that's my opinion for why I think being a liar in League of Legends can actually be a good thing about helping you win some more games. Let me know what you think about this, these points down below in the comments too. Feel free to leave me that cheeky thumbs up if you enjoyed the video, and of course subscribe to me for more videos just like this one. Thanks for watching, boys and girls, have a good one, and I will see you in my next video.